I have a confession. When One Piece Heroines was first announced, I got excited. Like, really excited. Because I thought we were finally getting something One Piece fans had wanted for years. 4 heroines, 4 stories, 1 anime. Simple. Nami, Robin, Vivi, Perona. Honestly, that sounded amazing. Except that's not what we got. Instead, the anime adapts just one, Nami. And when I first heard that, I won't lie, I was disappointed. Robin's story is considered by many fans to be the highlight of the novel. Perona's chapter is another fan favorite. Even Vivi gets some really sweet moments. So why would they skip all of that? Was this just a lazy adaptation, a budget issue, or did Toei actually make the right call? Because after watching it, I think my opinion completely changed. Before we jump in, if you're into anime reviews, seasonal impressions, hidden gems, and everything happening in the anime world, you're in the right place. I'm planning to cover a lot more shows here on WeebWeb, so if that's your thing, consider subscribing. And while you're down there, let me ask you something. If you had to pick just one heroine to receive a full adaptation, who would it be? Leave your answer in the comments. I'm really curious to see which character wins. Alright, let's talk about One Piece Heroines. Unless you've somehow managed to avoid anime for the last 25 years, you already know One Piece. It's one of the biggest manga ever created, one of the most successful entertainment franchises in Japan, and somehow it's still getting bigger. We're entering the final saga. The Netflix live action keeps attracting new fans. There's a brand new remake on the way. The card game is everywhere. Movies, games, merchandise, spin-offs. One Piece is basically impossible to escape. And honestly, I don't think Shueisha wants us to. Because let's face it, eventually the manga will end. Maybe in 3 years, maybe 5, maybe, knowing Oda, 10. Who knows? But when your biggest franchise is basically a money-printing machine, you don't just let it disappear, you expand it, and that's exactly where spin-offs come in. We've already seen some fantastic ones. Shokugeki no Sanji, Episode A, Fan Letter, which, by the way, if you still haven't watched it, go do it. Seriously, it's only about half an hour long, and somehow it made me emotional over characters we've barely even met. It's incredible. Then came One Piece Heroines. Originally released as a light novel in 2021, written by Jun Asaka, it tells smaller, more personal stories about some of One Piece's most beloved female characters. No world-ending stakes, no giant battles, no ancient weapons, just characters being characters. And honestly, that sounded refreshing. The original novel includes 4 different stories: Nami, Robin, Vivi, and Perona. So naturally, when the anime was announced, most of us assumed that's exactly what we'd get. 4 episodes, 4 heroines, done. Instead, the adaptation focuses almost entirely on Nami's chapter, while expanding it with brand new anime original scenes, and even adding characters who weren't present in the novel. So here's the real question. Does expanding one story work better than adapting all 4? Because after finishing the anime, I think I finally understand why they made that decision. And surprisingly, I don't hate it, not even close. But before I explain why, let's talk about the episode itself. So let's start with the biggest surprise. Nami's story is way smaller than I expected, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Actually, I think that's exactly why it works. If you're expecting a massive pirate adventure, Gear 5, or some huge revelation that changes One Piece forever, yeah, this isn't that kind of anime. Instead, it tells a surprisingly grounded story, one that's built around fashion, confidence, and Nami herself. On paper, that premise almost sounds too simple. Nami goes to a fashion event. That's basically the elevator pitch. And honestly, when I first read that synopsis, I wasn't exactly sold. I kept thinking, really? That's the story they decided to animate? But once the episode starts, you realize something. One Piece has always been fantastic at giving its characters unforgettable introductions, dramatic backstories, and emotional payoffs. But something the main series rarely has time for anymore is simply letting those characters exist. Just a character living her life. And honestly, that felt refreshing. Because the episode reminds you of something that's easy to forget after more than 1,000 chapters. Nami isn't just the girl who's obsessed with money. She's funny, she's clever, she's incredibly observant, and beneath all that confidence, she genuinely cares about people. The story never tries to reinvent Nami. Instead, it takes the personality we've known for years and gives it room to breathe. And that's what I think the adaptation understands really well. It's not trying to create a better Nami. It's simply reminding us why we've liked Nami all this time. Then there's the presentation, and I have to say, this might be my favorite part of the entire adaptation. It has a completely different identity. The original light novel illustrations take a lot of inspiration from classic shoujo manga, elegant poses, soft expressions, beautiful outfits. And thankfully, the anime doesn't throw that away, it embraces it. The result is an episode that doesn't really look like your typical One Piece story, and I mean that as a compliment. It almost feels like we're seeing the world through Nami's eyes. It's still unmistakably One Piece, but with a completely different flavor, and honestly, I loved that. It's celebrating a character. Which brings us back to the question from the beginning. Why Nami? I started looking at it differently. Nami's chapter is probably the easiest one to expand. Its smaller scale gives the staff room to breathe. If they had tried to squeeze all 4 stories into a single adaptation, there's a good chance every one of them would have felt rushed. I actually understand the decision now. So, after all that, is One Piece Heroines actually worth watching? I'd say yes. But maybe not for the reason you expected. If you're looking for massive fights, huge reveals, or something that completely changes the One Piece universe, you're going to leave disappointed. What this anime offers is something much smaller, and somehow, that's exactly what makes it special. It's a chance to spend a little more time with one of One Piece's most iconic characters. Could the adaptation have been bigger? Absolutely. Would I still love to see, especially Robin, receive the same treatment? Without a doubt. But judging this anime for what it actually is, instead of what I wanted it to be, I genuinely had a good time. And honestly, I think that's the fairest way to review any adaptation. Now, there's one thing I'm really curious about. If this adaptation does well, could we eventually see Mobile 2, with Hancock, Reiju, and Uta receive the same treatment? I honestly hope so, because after watching this, I think One Piece Heroines has proven that these smaller stories deserve an audience. But now, I want to hear your opinion. Were you disappointed that the anime only adapted Nami's story? Or do you think focusing on a single heroine was actually the smarter decision? And if you enjoyed this review, I'd really appreciate it if you left a like, because it genuinely helps new anime fans discover the channel. And if this is your first time here, consider subscribing. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.